Welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and today I'm going to be stealing from myself. That's right, I'm going to be continuing on with a series that I did recently on my channel and really love doing, so I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And that is the Guess My Rating challenge. So if you're unfamiliar with that challenge, what I did is I picked 4 books, basically from random last time. This time there's a little bit more thought process into it, and I predict what I'm going to rate them based off of the summary and the Goodreads rating and the front cover, and then I guess again after I read the first chapter, and then I guess again after the 50% mark, and then at the end of the book I come to you and tell you whether or not I was right in my guess. I had a lot of fun doing it last time, even though I felt like it was more of a failure than I wanted the video to be, but I'm really happy with what I learned in the process of doing that, and I'm hoping to take what I learned from there and make this video even better than last time. This time, one of the things I'm doing to make it a little bit more fair is all of the books will be read in the same format throughout. So I will be listening to all audiobooks in this instance. I feel like that way I have less of a chance of DNFing a book if it's an audiobook than if it's a physical book. I don't know if I'm the only one, but yeah. All of the books are under 15 hours, so that means they're really not that long in the grand scheme of things. One of them I think is 15 hours and 20 minutes, but like, we're gonna let it pass, okay? So yeah, I'm really excited. I have a mix of some sci-fi books and some fantasy books. Duh, fantasy, I love it. And then I have a mix of some shorter stories, some longer stories, and I have a mix of books that I already own and books I don't already own. Now, if you don't know, I do a little bit of research into books before I buy them, so the 2 that I own, I do already know a little bit more about than the 2 I don't own. Okay, let's get started with the first one. I'm gonna start off at the top with one I don't own, and that is Binti. I love the cover of this book, by the way. I know last time in my last video I talked about how I don't like people on the front covers, but faces I feel like are okay for me. Like, also she's just gorgeous. I love the orange against her dark skin. It's a really nice contrast. Now this has a 3.93 rating. So in my last video I talked about how a 3.9 was bad. Yeah, I take that back. I have since learned that a 3.9 is not a bad rating. Now, I do know this book is sci-fi, and I'm not usually a huge fan of sci-fi, but I'm willing to give this a shot because I've heard a few people say it is worth the read. Her name is Binti, and she's the first of the Himba people ever to be offered a place at Umza University, the finest institution of higher learning in the galaxy. But to accept the offer will mean giving up her place and her family to travel between the stars among strangers who do not share her ways or respect her customs. I really enjoy school settings, universities, that kind of stuff. I think this book will be something I really, really enjoy. I'm going to guess a 4 out of 5 will be my rating. I am not going to give it a full 5 because 1, it is sci-fi, and I'm a little bit hesitant to guess 5 stars for a sci-fi book, and 2, it is a short story, and I know that I just don't click with short stories that well. I think the audiobook is like 2 hours. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is another one that I'm also borrowing from the library. This one's a little bit longer. There's the Gilded Wolves. That front cover is pretty, but I don't absolutely love it. There's something about that green that just feels like really fakey to me, and so I'm kind of like not all the way into it, but that gold, oh, the gold is gorgeous. I really love when books have objects or kind of like abstractions on the front cover, and I feel like that falls into this category. So the rating is 3.66 out of 5 stars, which is not a good rating. That really isn't, but you know what? Let's get to the summary before I guess anything. It's 1889. I feel like I'm old-timey all of a sudden. The city's on the cusp of industry and power, and the Exposition Universelle has breathed new life into the streets and drugged up ancient secrets. Why am I doing this accent? So the next paragraph talks about how it's going to be like a large cast, multiple POVs. I've heard people compare this book to 6 of Crows, but I've also heard people say that it's a letdown if you compare it to 6 of Crows, which 6 of Crows is possibly my favorite book ever. So I'm gonna try not to compare it to that. I do like large casts. I do like a lot of the ideas that came up into this. I'm hesitant because it sounds like it's going to be like Industrial Revolution, you know, 1889 times, and I'm not a huge fan of reading about that. Ignoring anything else, only going based off of this, I'm going to guess I will rate this book 3 out of 5 stars. Maybe I should do 2.5. You know what? That's it. I'm going to guess that I will rate this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, and now let's move back into the realm of sci-fi, and that is going to be Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This one I absolutely know nothing about, and I'm honestly hesitant to even read the summary because I prefer to go into Brandon Sanderson's books without the summary. I really, really love his fantasy series, but I started his sci-fi series, the one that's like about the superheroes, and I didn't even make it a full chapter before I DNF'd it. I have been hesitant to pick up this book. This cover, I like this cover. This isn't actually the cover that I have on my book, but I I like this one a little bit more. Although the sequel, I feel like it's boring when you compare the sequel for this cover and the sequel for the other cover. Like, at least the sequel for the other cover is a little bit different. I really love grays and yellows together. I feel like they just add in this eerie, like, abandonedness. So it has a 4.53 out of 5 stars. That's like, oh my god, that's like unheard of. Defeated, crushed, and driven almost to extinction, the remnants of the human race are trapped on a planet that is constantly attacked by mysterious alien starfighters. Spensa, a teenage girl living among them, longs to be a pilot. When she discovers the wreckage of an ancient ship, she realizes this dream might be possible, assuming she can repair the ship, navigate flight school, and perhaps most importantly, persuade the strange machine to help her, because this ship uniquely appears to have a soul. God, why haven't I read this book yet? So one of my favorite things, of course, is schools. I just talked about that. But one of my things that I love more than that is AI and like people interacting with baddie AI or like omnipresent AI. God, I might rate this book 5 out of 5 stars. This might be a new favorite for me. I'm gonna guess 5 out of 5 stars. And now on to the final one, and that is The Raven Tower. First off, I love this cover. This is my favorite cover out of all of them so far. I love gold and black. I like, honestly, if I had all the money in the world and all the patience in the world, I would build a bookcase just black and gold. This has a 3.97, which is a good rating. Gods meddle in the fates of men. Men play with the fates of gods, and a pretender must cast down from the throne in this breathtaking first fantasy novel from Leckie, New York Times bestselling author and winner of the Hugo, Nebula, and Arthur C. Clarke Awards. Okay, you haven't told me anything about this book. I mean, that sounds really interesting. I love gods messing with men and men's messing with God and pretenders, but what is this book about? For centuries, the kingdom of Eredin has been protected by the god known as the Raven. He watches over his territory from atop a tower in the powerful port of Vestai. Wow, I don't know how to pronounce words. His will is enacted through the Raven's lease, a human ruler chosen by the god himself. His magic is sustained via the blood sacrifice that every lease must offer, and under the Raven's watch, the city flourishes. I still feel like I don't know what this book is about. But the power of the Raven is weakening. A usurper has claimed the throne. The kingdom borders are tested by invaders who long for the prosperity that Vestai boasts, and they have made their own alliances with other gods. Okay, so I'm kind of getting a feel for this book. This sounds like something I will like if it's done properly, which, based off of the ratings, I think it will be. Oh my god, my foot's falling asleep. I'm gonna guess a 4.5 out of 5 stars for this book. I think it could lean anywhere from a 3 to a 5. I think this one is most likely to disappoint me without me realizing it, because I think the Gilded Wolves is going to disappoint me, and I think Binti has the possibility to disappoint me, but I think that the Raven Towers has the possibility to unexpectedly disappoint me. I will check back in with you guys once I've started reading these books. Hi, so I've read the first chapter of Binti, and it's time to make my next guess. While I appreciate what the book is doing and I'm really happy that it's saying the things it's saying, I overall don't find myself super invested. It has the like quick pacedness and show not tell-ness of short stories. I don't seem to be minding the sci-fi elements of it, but it's not really getting into like the school elements or the culture as in depth as I would like. When it does talk about the culture, I am loving it. I still think this is going to be a 3 or 3.5 star rating, but I'm gonna say 3 for right now as my next guess. Okay, time to check in for the halfway mark on Binti. I'm gonna leave my rating the same. I think it's going to be a 3-star rating. Yeah. So I'm about to get off work, but I figured I'd come and talk to you guys really quickly before I leave for the day, because I finished Binti and I didn't like it. Everything I've been saying before is just exactly what I want to continue saying. It had absolutely great morals and lessons, and everything that it had to teach me was awesome. The writing wasn't there, but I ended up rating it 2 stars. I think at the 50% mark, I wanted to rate it 2 stars, but I was fearful that because it was such an important topic that I shouldn't rate it that way. But by the end, I decided that that is what I felt the book was. So no matter how good your topic is, your writing has to match it in some means. I rated the book 2 stars. Hey, I haven't moved yet. That's because I have listened to the first chapter of the Gilded Wolves, and I'm here to talk to you about it. So I actually didn't even finish the whole first chapter. I listened to half of it, and I hate it. I hate it so much. There's just something about, I don't know if it's the narrator or the writing style or I have no clue. I cannot tell you why I don't like this book, but I don't. and I was gonna try to force myself to keep reading it, but right now I'm coming out of a reading slump, and so I don't want to get myself back into one. So unfortunately, just like last time, I'm gonna DNF a book. Hey, so I actually listened to 3 chapters of The Raven Tower because I wasn't sure that what I was listening to was actually chapter 1 or if it was the prologue, and I'll explain that. Because the book is written in second person perspective, which is something I really enjoy, especially in audiobook format. I don't think I've ever read a book physically with my eyes in second person perspective, but I have only listened to one series before now in second person perspective, and I loved it. And so when this one started out to be like that, I was like, well, maybe it's just the prologue. But after 3 chapters, I don't think that's the case. It might still change because they don't announce chapters when they change. That's the other issue as to why I've listened to 3 chapters. They're very short chapters, and they don't say like chapter 3 and then continue on. There might come a point when they're like, oh, prologue is done, chapter 1 has started, but I'm not sure at this point. As of right now, I think this book is going to be really, really good. I think I might end up rating it 5 stars, but I'm really hesitant to say that at this moment because I just feel like I don't know enough going in to make that kind of a guess. So I'm gonna say 4.5 right now to be safe, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, oh my God, this could be a 5-star book. Hey, so I'm at the 50% mark of The Raven Tower, and I have some comments about it that I'm not totally sure if I want to make right now or if I want to make when I finish the book. It definitely reminds me of a mix of N.K. Jemison's The Fifth Season and Erin Morgenstern's The Starless Sea, because it's got the second person perspective and it has like the feel of The Fifth Season, but it has that kind of energy of The Starless Sea where you get a lot of like fables and stories throughout the main part of the story. I think that the book could be better, so I think I'm going to guess that it'll be a 4-star at this point, but I do think that it could also surprise me and still get a 5-star rating. Okay, so I finished The Raven Tower, and I'm having a hard time rating it, honestly. So I put on Goodreads that it is a 4 out of 5 stars, which is what I'm going to say for this challenge. But I do think that this book is not one to be read once, and I don't think it's a book to be read and then forgotten. I think it's something that I need to think about and dwell on and consider for months, possibly even years to come, and to come back to and reread and reanalyze what it is at its core. And that after I do those kinds of things, I do think it could be raised to a 5. At least I think I could possibly give it a 4.5 or a 4.75. As of right now, I'm going to be giving it a 4. I think that the hardest thing about this book is the summary on Goodreads is not accurate to what it is. It definitely tells you like what happens in the book, but that doesn't lead you into any accurate description of what the book actually is at its core. So I've already told you guys that it's told in second person perspective. So the whole entire story is this god. There's multiple gods in this world, and this one is talking directly to a human about the creation of the world, the past, different fables that people have come and told this god, and also the god is watching this human as they are going about their life, and the human's name is Eola. What's really cool is Eola is transgender, and also he is bisexual, so that's really cool representation. So this character is following their lord as he is supposed to return to this tower where every time the god of that tower dies, the man, the lease in charge of it, must sacrifice himself to fuel the raven, that's the god's name, to return back to life. And he is supposed to go to this tower because his father has just sacrificed himself and he is supposed to become the next lease. And Eola is going to follow his lord and help him basically claim the throne. But when they get there, something weird has happened. And so the story of the god telling the fables and telling his start and telling the start of the world slowly meet up with present day stories happening. But I would not recommend this to many people. I honestly was thinking about some of my friends that are big readers who I recommend them many books, and I would not recommend any of them this book. I think you have to be willing to go into this book with an open mind and not expecting some kind of like novel that you're used to. It's not the same kind of storytelling that you get in any other story. So I listened to the first chapter of Skyward. I honestly debated with myself because this one had a prologue and then a chapter 1, and I thought about listening to the prologue and then also chapter 1 because technically I say I'm listening to chapter 1, but I decided just to listen to the prologue. I don't like it. I have no interest in continuing on with this book. This is the same way I felt when I listened to Steelheart, and I ended up quitting that book. But at this point, I feel like my guess for this book would be a 3-star rating. I know deep down in my core that it is going to change, that Brandon Sanderson surprises me and does a great job writing. And as long as I can get through the complaints I have, I will come out the other end with a book I really, really like. It's hot. Hi. I did the same thing once again that I did for the last video, and I don't know, what is that? I don't know if that has anything to do with who I am as a person or because of the books, or I don't know, maybe I should explain to you what I did. So I DNF'd Skyward like a few weeks ago. It's been a long time since I've talked to you guys in this video because I didn't want to come forward with the shame of telling you that once again in another Guess My Rating Challenge video, I DNF'd 50% of the books. I even tried to pick books that like I thought I 100% knew I would be able to finish, and no. I think that both Skyward and the Gilded Wolves would have been books I could have finished if I hadn't been quite in such a mood, but I was definitely in a weird spot when I was doing this video where I wasn't forcing myself to read anything I really wasn't wanting to read because I was hitting a big reading slump. So maybe I could have finished them in a different mindset, but not for this video. Maybe I'll do a Guess My Ratings challenge for all the books that I've DNF'd in Guess My Rating Challenge video. I DNF'd Skyward. Basically, I made it 3 hours into the audiobook and there was nothing holding me into it. I can't tell you right now what the main character's name is, but she was a brat. I didn't like her. I didn't care about her. I felt like that was what Brandon Sanderson was trying to do with her, and that eventually she was going to change and I was going to like her, but I couldn't even stand to be around her as she was long enough to figure out where she was going to be. The plot like still hadn't done anything. I had done the math and I was over 100 pages into the physical book from the audiobook, and she wasn't really in flight school yet. She hadn't met this cool AI that was going to interact with her yet. She hadn't done anything. All I had met was a bunch of characters just being little annoying. I don't even have a word for them. Anyways, so I DNF'd it. I'm sorry. Send me all the hate you want to, but like, I've learned that I really enjoy Brandon Sanderson's fantasy and I cannot stand his sci-fi. I definitely think that in the future I would be willing to give both Skyward and the Gilded Wolves a second chance. So I feel like once again I hadn't really learned what I wanted to learn from this video, which is why I postponed doing this ending clip for you guys because I had no clue what to say to you all. But I guess what I'm going to say to you is sometimes you just cannot guess what you are going to rate a book or whether or not you're going to like a book simply based off the cover and the summary and even the first chapter. That's just how it be. Anyways, I really love this format, so it's something I'm not going to be giving up. I definitely want to do another Guess My Rating challenge in the future. If you have any recommendations for me about books you'd like me to do or categories you'd like me to read from for this kind of a challenge, let me know. Also, I'm really sorry about this weird light streak. I'm trying not to have it, but this is how I'm vlogging right now, so this is the setup. Anyways, let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you are interested in reading any of these books. I'd absolutely love to talk to you about them. If you have any arguments where I should read the Gilded Wolves or finish Skyward, put them down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about arguing with me to try to finish them. Sorry, weird angle change because really quickly I realized I ended the video and didn't talk to you at all about the 2 books that I actually read for this video. So very quickly, I ended up reading Binti, which I did not like. I talked all about it. 2 out of 2 stars. I did not predict that rating correctly. And then I ended up reading The Raven Tower, which I ended up rating 4.5 out of 5 stars, which was pretty dang close to what I thought I was going to rate it. So that one's not too bad of a guess, honestly. Anyways, I don't remember how my outro goes anymore, but until next time, I will talk to you all in the comments. Bye.